they're under the influence, of driving automobiles. Under the supervision not only of safety officials and police officers, but the Parent Teachers Association and the State of Nevada Medical Association. This is an alcohol driver's test, conducted on a specially prepared driving range near Reno. What actually happens when an otherwise good driver gets behind the wheel while under the influence? Modern life is geared to the automobile, a complex mechanism that in itself must be operated by an even more complex entity, you. The act of driving requires quick reactions, good coordination, clear vision, and split-second judgment. Yet today's motorized civilization, more than ever, likes to socialize, relax their tensions, enjoy life. Most people usually think of alcohol as a stimulant, but it isn't. The impression of stimulation is simply a lessening of inhibitions. Alcohol is actually a type of anesthetic chemically related to ether and chloroform. So in a sense, as you drink, you are becoming anesthetized. But does a little alcohol, just a drink or two, really affect you? The tests you are about to see will prove that as little as 0.04% alcohol in the blood reduces visual acuity as much as if you were wearing dark glasses after sundown.
May I see your driver's license, please?
Sure.
Have you been drinking this evening, Mr. Dempsey?
No, not at all.
How did you happen to
Maybe
park
one or two.
Sir?
One, maybe one or two at the most.
One or two at the most?
Yeah.
Mr. Dempsey, would you mind getting out of your automobile, please? Would you be willing to take a sobriety test?
Well, yes. Sure, I'll take one.
Before I give you the examination, Mr. Dempsey, I want to advise you that anything you say or do, sir, may be used as evidence against you in court. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand that. Sure.
He's lucky. This time, he's only going to be embarrassed. For running a red light, he could have been embalmed. It can happen anytime, anywhere, to anyone. But being under the influence doesn't help. It was to determine how much a driver is adversely affected by relatively small amounts of alcohol that the Nevada Alco driver test was developed. The first was the reaction test, to see how fast the subject could react and brake on signal. The officer actuated a mechanism that fired a marker onto the pavement. The subject hit the brake as fast as possible. This fired another marker. The reaction distance was measured. A good average for sober drivers was 0.55 seconds. Now, driving test number 2. Designed to check the subject's ability to maneuver a vehicle in close quarters. The next day, the party. Each subject was allowed a predetermined amount of alcohol based on body mass. A breath test was given to aid in determining the alcohol consumption level. And each subject was also given a blood test. This shows the alcohol level of the blood and is an accepted way of measuring the degree of intoxication. 0.15% is widely accepted as an indication that a person is under the influence. With the average individual, this occurs with just a few highballs. Then came an analysis of visual acuity, color vision, the all-important test for depth perception, visual reaction time, and so on. Then came the moment of truth. After all the speculation and the generalizations about driving while under the influence, the guinea pig drivers are ready to confirm or deny. Jim, subject number 5, for example, took 50% longer to react when under the influence, as did Marge, subject number 12. The second phase, measurement of the subject's ability to drive smoothly, coordinate, and maneuver in close quarters, showed that alcohol ruined the previous day's scores for everyone. The penalties amassed by the participants represented minor collisions, bent fenders, damage to structures, and possible serious accidents if they had really been driving in traffic. The girls scored as poorly as the men. What did the tests prove? Peripheral vision dropped nearly 18 degrees with the consumption of alcohol. The all-important sense of depth perception deteriorated to only 26% of normal. Reaction time, a life and death factor, increased dangerously about 25 to 50% with the intake of alcohol. In conclusion, the medical summary.
The Alco driver experiment proves without a doubt that a person's ability to operate a motor vehicle can be seriously impaired at levels far below the 0.15% blood alcohol content. The presumptive standard, equal to about 7 drinks, is not a realistic figure. Immediate consideration should be given to reducing the under the influence standard downward to the 0.10%.
I can't do it in the shoes.
Well, would you like to take your shoes off?
Yes, please.
None of these people planned to put themselves on display like this. They were caught in the driver's seat after they had put others, as well as their own lives, in jeopardy. Two average highballs contain an ounce of alcohol. It will take your body about 3 hours to oxidize it. If you have had 3 or 4 drinks, up to 6 hours, and so on. So you had better let someone else drive or risk being the unwilling subject of a test yourself.
Manner, and touch the tip of your nose with the finger that I call out. Would you try that, please? Okay, Mr. Vinci. That's fine. You didn't do too well on that. How many drinks did you say you had, sir?
One or two.
One or two drinks?
Two at the most.
That's a little hard to believe. Would you step over here to the car, please? Sir, you're under arrest for drunk driving.
But people like this prove that even a few drinks seriously impair your ability to see, react, coordinate the most important skills of this motorized age. Don't let a few drinks foul up that complex, finely balanced entity, you, when you have to get behind the wheel.
Hello everybody, I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to our lunchtime screening. I do a thing called AV Geeks where I collect old educational films and then I share them with folks like you. And since we're all kind of stuck at home, I figured this is an opportunity to share with you some films during lunch. I mean, this is biased Eastern Standard Time, but give you an opportunity to give yourself a break to where you're not reading the news and watch some older films. That last film was Alco Beat, which is a great film made in the 60s, showing the effects of drinking and driving by getting people drunk and then having them drive. Now, what's interesting is I have two other films that do the exact same thing, but in different states. One's called 5 Drinking Drivers, and then the most recent one I just got, and I can't remember the title of that one, but it's a very common thing. I'm sure that this was some sort of educational thing, and somebody talked about this being a spectator sport in the comments, and yes, I mean, I don't know if you could tell, but in some of the other films, they actually show what happens, and I'm sure they did these at county fairs and state fairs and things like that. So let's get people drunk and then watch them drive and knock over some pylons. Anyways, so we're sharing a bunch of films, some related to food, and because you're having lunch, and this one is tangentially related to food in that it's about being safe in the kitchen. So here's Cooking Kitchen Safety. Enjoy.
This is the sad story of Eleanor Jones. Eleanor is spending a few days at the hospital. She really didn't intend to come to the hospital, but just a few days ago, something happened. Eleanor decided to clean the top of the kitchen cupboards. There was a stepladder in the basement, but Eleanor just didn't want to take the trouble. Careful, Eleanor, careful. So Eleanor has a chance for some extra reading. What are you reading, Eleanor? Yes, Eleanor has learned her lesson, but how about you? Do you know how to play safe in the kitchen? One of the first things to remember is to arrange your kitchen as conveniently and as efficiently as possible. In this way, you avoid those extra steps which cause fatigue and thus reduce the possibility of an accident. Store the things you use near the place you intend to use them. And by all means, store poisons, extra matches, and other dangerous items far above the reach of children. Keep those cupboard doors closed. A bump on the head probably won't send you to the hospital, but it will be painful just the same. Small accidents will happen occasionally, but don't let them become major ones. Wipe up that grease spot immediately before you have a chance to forget about it. A knife is a dangerous weapon if not treated with the proper respect. Strangely enough, a sharp knife is less dangerous than a dull one. Since less force is required to use a sharp knife, it is less likely to slip. Whenever possible, use the knife so that the direction of force is away from the body. Then if the knife should slip, it'll do no great damage. And keep those fingers out. If possible, store knives in a knife rack. It is safer and more convenient, and also protects the edge from contact with other utensils. This is the wrong way to wash knives. They should be washed separately and one at a time. If you lose a knife in the dishwater, you're likely to find it the hard way. Sure to treat even small injuries immediately to avoid danger of infection. And while we're on the subject of knives, they just weren't tough edges to cut fingers. Many excellent foods are preserved in glass containers. Should break, throw the food away. No matter how safe it may be, the danger of broken glass fragments is great to be disregarded. No kitchen is complete without a range, but there are right and wrong ways to use one. With a pilot light, lighting the burner, but make sure that the gas actually does ignite. If it doesn't have a pilot light, light your match before turning on the gas. Before lighting it. This way you allow any accumulated gas to escape and prevent a possible explosion. After this time has elapsed, light and insert the match, then turn on the gas. A handle projecting over the edge of the stove can easily cause this. Keep the handles on your pots and pans tight and in good condition. A loose handle can cause many a spill. A screwdriver kept in the kitchen will be handy for keeping things in good repair. A good way to keep a handle in good condition is to keep it away from the lighted burners. Use a dry pot holder that is large enough to protect your hand, yet not large enough to extend into the flame. A wet holder conducts heat very readily. When removing the lid from a pan likely to contain steam, tip the lid in such a way as to direct the steam away from your body. Foods fried in deep fat are delicious, but certain precautions should be observed in their preparation. The mistakes usually made are filling the pan too full and is at a temperature 200 degrees hotter than boiling. Any water clinging to the food boils vigorously. This is likely to carry the fat over the side, where it may ignite. Pour the fat into a large container. Large enough so that the fat is at least 3 inches from the top. Keep the food as dry as possible. Remember, it's the water that causes the bubbling. And just in case, keep a reliable fire extinguisher in the kitchen at all times. What's wrong here? All the burners are turned off. Ah, but don't forget, this stove has a pilot light. Don't leave papers or pot holders near it, or this will happen to you. When plugging in or removing any electrical appliance, be sure your hands are dry. Wet skin conducts electricity much more readily than dry skin. Therefore, the danger of shock is much greater when your hands are wet. Here is a dangerous situation. Keep those electric cords where no one can trip over them. If you use any of the many kinds of special equipment designed for the kitchen, be sure to read the manufacturer's recommendations for safe operation and follow them closely. It is not sufficient to follow the advice of some friend who ought to know. Consult your instruction book and get the correct information. When it becomes necessary to climb, do it a safe way. The few dollars you pay for a ladder are well spent in terms of convenience and safety. Remember Eleanor Jones? Eleanor will be released from the hospital in a few days, and when she gets out, she is determined to stay out. Eleanor had to go to the hospital to learn her lesson, but you don't have to. Remember, it pays to play safe in the kitchen.
Oh, Eleanor. Eleanor Jones. I'm sure a lot of us are getting reacquainted with some gadgets and things. I busted out a pasta maker that my mother-in-law bought that we'd never used, that I'm trying to figure out if it's worth gumming up with a bunch of dough so we can make pierogies. Thinking about it. I don't know. Anyways, so Kitchen Safety, that was a Young American Films, which distributed films in the 40s, 50s, and has that great logo of that eagle. That some people look at the eye of the eagle and they see a little sickle and hammer, but also has that great organ music. They distribute a lot of stuff for Centron Films and some others. All right, so I'm hearing it. So somebody posted a couple of things ago that I made this annoying sound, and now I'm hearing it, and I'm becoming very self-aware, and so I apologize if it's pet peeving you. I will try to diminish it, just like I will try to diminish the uhs. Anyhow, here is a film from the 70s. We always have to kind of give ourselves some films from the 70s to bring things up a little bit. I played Lines Are Fun yesterday, and I played Telezonia, which are two amazing films that have amazing songs, and this one has an amazing song as well. And sing along if you know the words. This is Crash Bang Boom.
drum used in a band, marching in the big parades all over the land. Then we had some cymbals and the bass drum. Now we have percussion for all our marching fun. Is the timpani. These are the chimes of an orchestra. Now you hear a xylophone. What is that ringing in my ears?
The tiny one is a triangle,
and the big one is a gong. This is a drummer in a rock and roll band. He plays a bass drum, snare drum, tom-tom,
and a cymbal.
All at once. Now we had a bass and a regular guitar and electric organ for a rock and roll song. This is a field drum used in a band, marching in the big parades all over the land. Then we had some cymbals and a bass drum. Now we have percussion for all our marching fun.
What is the sound that I'm hearing now?
That is the timpani. These are the chimes of the orchestra. Now you hear a xylophone. What is that ringing in my ears?
The tiny one is a triangle,
And the big one is a gong. Now let's put them all together for
I got to tell you, I've been a little blah this morning, for whatever reason, and sharing that film with you, and listening to that film and watching that film again is always life-affirmingly great for me. It always gives me this boost of it's such a great film, and the song is so amazingly annoying and catchy at the same time. It gives me joy. Great joy. I hope it gave you joy as well watching it, or at least annoyed you to the point where you had to mute it temporarily. Either way, I'm happy with it. Oh, there's that tick again. See, there's that sound. I got to stop that. It's my lip, or it's my tongue doing something. Anyways, next film is another one of my favorites. This doesn't have any narration. It has a little bit of assembly line footage in it, and it has an amazing electronic synth soundtrack. This is Plastics. Enjoy.
No matter which way you go, it looks different. It looks like it's from space.
What are these made of? Those cute little ones. It looks like a neon tube.
Color is beautiful. It's almost like glass.
So Carl Stone should be known to some of you who, if you follow early synthesizer composers and musicians. He's got quite a few records that he put out in the 70s. I'm not sure if he's still alive or not. But man, plastics is so good. Making all the extruded plastic stuff, especially making the chairs and the records, and it's really just a phenomenal film. All right, so I know some of you are missing office life. You got to be, right? Because it was so much part of your life before. So this film, and these next two films, I'll actually show two films in a row, are made for managers to deal with office. God, I can't even say office problems, specifically office drama. So here's enjoy.
Something really big is brewing. No, what is it? Nell's out, or at least some part of the company. What do you think of that?
That's silly, Helen. What makes you want to sell out?
Well, I don't know. But Nell said when she was in his office, she overheard him talking about it.
You think there's really anything to it?
Well, Nell says she heard Mr. Cowdery say that the Perkins Company plant in Cleveland can handle the entire load. You can figure it out from there. Everybody's talking about it.
Gee, I hope not. Oh, this Mr. Stone. I'll see you, Helen.
Okay, so long.
And we'll be happy to talk over the matter with you on your next visit here. Cordially yours. That'll be all for now, Alice.
Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone.
Yes?
Well, I was wondering if you could tell me if it's... Well, you see, my husband works here in town, and we just bought a new house, so... Well, I'd hate to have to move or look for another job or anything, and...
What are you trying to say, Alice?
Well, you see, everybody's talking about Perkins Company taking us over, maybe moving us all to Cleveland. I was just wondering if you could tell me if it's true, because if it is...
What? Well, I'll be... How do rumors like that get started? Look, Alice, who told you that?
Well, it's kind of all over the office, Mr. Stone.
Well, you and the rest of the girls can forget it. There's nothing to it. Why is it people are always interested in things that are none of their business? First thing you know, the darndest rumors get started like this one. Look, Alice, will you please take my advice and not repeat any of these silly stories?
Yes, Mr. Stone.
The Grapevine.
Yeah, the old Grapevine. Something simple happens, it's misinterpreted. A story starts and grows and grows. For instance, 2 weeks later.
Oh, Alice, if you will wait just a moment, you can take these reports up to Mr. Cowdery.
Yes.
Well, look, Mr. Stone, I'll be running along. Don't worry, we'll get your new computer and those file cabinets in early next week. Good. Now that we're getting rid of those 2 desks out there, I guess we'll have room for them. Oh, yes. What about the expert operator? Oh, I've taken care of that. We're sending you our very best girl. Good. All right. Here you are, Alice. If you'll just give these reports to Mr. Cowdery's secretary, please.
Yes, Mr. Stone.
Now, I'm planning on keeping your expert operator here long enough to train both Helen and Sally. They're 2 of my best girls. That way, both girls will be trained on the new machine, and we'll be able to get out a lot more work with less effort.
Well, I can guarantee you this, Mr. Stone. You're going to like it. And the girls will be happy with it, too, after they've learned how to use it.
I'm sure of it. Within a week, both my girls will be old hands at it.
Just a normal business improvement. Stone, head of accounting, is getting a new type of computer to make his department more efficient. A simple improvement in methods. Simple, that is, until the office Grapevine gets a hold of it.
I hear they've already ordered one. Yes, Helen and Sally. Moving them?
Transfer?
Laid off?
Fired? Without notice? Just like that? What did they do?
Well, the least he could have done was tell us first.
Well, that's only what I heard, Helen. Maybe the thing for you to do is go right in and ask him about it. After all, you're not sure.
Well, you're his secretary, Alice. Why don't you ask him?
I wouldn't ask him. I told you how he acts when anybody asks him anything about anything that goes on around here.
Well, where there's smoke, there's fire. If they're moving our desks out and getting a new automatic machine, they must be getting rid of us, too.
Well, that's the thanks you get. 4 years at the same desk working your head off, and then in comes a newfangled machine, and out you go.
Well, I think we ought to quit before he has a chance to fire us. There's plenty of other good jobs around here. I don't know what you're going to do, Sally, but I'm leaving early today to find me another job. And it's really a swell job. And if you'll come down...
Good morning,
there's an
girls.
interview already...
Oh, Helen, will you and Sally come in for just a minute, please? I've got some news for you.
We've got some news for him, too.
Well, I guess this is it.
Oh, come on in and sit down, girls. I've got something I want to talk to you about.
It's all right. You don't have to tell us. We know. And it may interest you to know that we don't care. This is the thanks you get for years of hard work. Maybe we don't want to work for you. As a matter of fact, I already have another job. I start Monday.
Wait a minute. Another job? What on earth are you talking about?
And I've got an interview set up for Sally, too. Maybe it's a good thing to change jobs now and then. People get so used to seeing you around, after a while they look at you like you're a piece of furniture.
What in the name of heaven are you talking about?
You needn't pretend, Mr. Stone. We've heard all about it already. The whole office has. You think just because you buy a new automatic machine, you can let us go and get an experienced operator for it. Well, let me tell you...
Let you go? Oh, for Pete's sake. If this wasn't so serious, it'd be ridiculous. Look, I'm buying a new computer to take the place of those 2 old adding machines out there. And they always send along an experienced operator to break someone in on it. Now, I thought you'd be much happier with a new setup.
Golly, Mr. Stone, we thought that...
You thought? Well, why didn't you come into me in the first place instead of listening to all this silly backyard gossip?
Well, I heard that whenever anyone comes into you about something, you say it doesn't concern them.
Look, girl, it isn't always possible to tell you everything that management has in mind. You can understand that. But I'll certainly tell you about anything that concerns you directly. In fact, that's why I called you in here, to tell you about this change before the equipment arrived.
Oh, golly, Mr. Stone, we thought we were going to lose our jobs.
Well, I'm sorry, girls, if you got concerned and upset over nothing. But how in the devil can I keep these rumors from getting started?
Say, Nancy, how are you girls scheduled for work this afternoon?
Oh, we've got plenty to keep us busy, Mr. Murphy. Why?
Well, the accounting department wants a cost analysis report so they can work on it tonight.
I've got a few things to work out before I can give it to you for typing, but I thought you and the girls could split it up and get it to me this afternoon.
Well, if we could get to it pretty soon, we could. It's 2 o'clock right now, and it's going to be at least a 2-hour job with all of us working on it.
Well, good. I'll have it for you in about an hour. Oh, now, say, there may be a few minutes of overtime involved. Oh, gosh, that's right. This is a night you girls bowl, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I imagine you want to get away on time. Well, I tell you what, I'll get right on it and have it to you as soon as I can, okay?
Okay, Mr. Murphy.
John, you have a minute?
Oh, gee, Dan, I'm awful busy. What's on your mind?
Well, look, I've got to have some cost estimates on these new jobs for the old man right away. Fact is, he says he's got to have them by tomorrow. He thought you could help.
Me? Oh, why does everything have to happen all at once? Oh, well, okay, I guess I can spare you a few minutes. Come on in, huh?
Did you hear how close I came to getting a hole-in-one last Sunday? But, John, if we convert the upper structure of the chassis to plastic, that may save considerably on the cost. As a matter of fact, we had them do that with one of the models in the experimental stage and showed it to the sales department.
How'd they like it? Come in.
They raved. Oh, she's really quite a model, John. Wait till you see her. She's got the prettiest shape you've ever seen.
Yes, Nancy.
It's the reports, Mr. Murphy. If we don't get to them pretty soon, we'll never get them out in time.
Golly, it's 2:30 already. I'm sorry, Nancy. I'll get them out in just a little while. Dan, I've got to get those cost reports out ready for the girls.
Well, John, there are just a couple of other items I need to check with you. Believe me, the old man's hot on this one. How about tonight?
Oh, I'd like to, Dan, but I can't. I got to go to a company auditor's meeting tonight.
Well, look, let me just check this one other alternate on the drawing right now. It'll only take a minute, and then tomorrow, why, we can wind it up.
We're never going to get that report done and get to the bowling alley on time. What are they talking about in there that's so important?
Women, naturally. When I went in there to ask him about it, he and Dan Tobin were talking about some model with the prettiest shape in the world. Men.
Well, finally. Oh, why doesn't he hurry up with that report? He knows we have to get to the alley by 6, and they can't start without it.
Well, we'll just have to skip dinner and go right on over there. And we'll be lucky to make it even then.
Well, that just makes me mad. If he'd given us that report when he said he would, we could have had it half done by now.
Here it is, Nancy. Get right on it now, will you, girls? Now, it's all finished, except I'd like to have you check the addition of the figures in this column here, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Why me? He's the one that's supposed to be the expert on figures, from what I heard. Well, come on, girls. Let's get going.
Well, girls, looks like everything's coming along all right. I'm real sorry that I got this work out to you so late, but I want you to know I appreciate very much you staying over to do it. Say, Nancy, when you get finished with it, will you put it on Mr. Simmons' desk? He's coming in tonight to study it. Well, I'd stay and help if there were anything I could do, but, well, I guess it's in your hands now. Well, good night, girls. See you in the morning.
I'm ready for some more. Oh, that. See you in the morning. I'll tell you one thing. It'll be a cold day before I work overtime for him again.
Oh, me too.
Hello, Murphy. Oh, yes, J.B. Cost figures on the new MX2? Well, no, they're not quite ready yet, J.B. Tomorrow noon? Saturday? But this is already Friday, J.B., and it's 4 o'clock. But... Yes, J.B. They'll be on your desk by noon tomorrow. Yeah. Yes. Nancy, will you and the girls come in here for a minute? Tomorrow. Girls, Mr. Brewster just called, and he wants a cost report on that new MX2 by tomorrow noon. So I'll finish the figures tonight and tomorrow morning, but I'm going to have somebody come in to type it up. So who's going to volunteer? Oh, that's right, Joan, you're out. You start your vacation tonight, don't you?
Yes, Mr. Murphy.
All right, Nancy, it's up to either you or Alice.
Well, gosh, Mr. Murphy, I'd really like to help you, but, well, Jack and I already have reservations down at the lake for the weekend.
And my mother-in-law is coming in town, so I couldn't possibly come in.
Now, look here. Somebody's going to come in here. Mr. Brewster wants that report, and he's going to get it. Now, how about some cooperation around here? Well?
Well, Mr. Murphy, we don't think it's fair of you to ask us to work overtime like this without some sort of notice. We feel that cooperation works both ways.
Well, of course it does. What are you talking about?
Well, we had to miss our bowling meeting a couple of weeks ago because of the last monthly report.
Oh, I'll be. I explained to you that it was urgent business that delayed those figures, and I told you I was sorry. What else do you want me to do?
Well, we just feel that you might have made some special effort to see that we got the figures in time so that we wouldn't have had to work late.
Alice, I did my best to get them to you on time. I thought I could ask a little sacrifice every now and then. I don't ask too much of you girls.
Sacrifices? You left at 5, and we were the ones who were left to finish with the work. And after you spent all afternoon talking about women and...
Women? What are you talking about? Now, you girls look here. My leaving had nothing to do about delaying that report. I don't know why I can't get some cooperation around here.
Cooperation? How far do you want us to cooperate? You're the one who went home, and we're the ones that stayed and worked.
Alice, what do you think cooperation is?
Well...
Oh, my goodness. So those are two films made by Calvin Corporation. And I think some of them were actually made for Alcoa, which was the Aluminum Corporation of America. And they were these films shown to managers on how to deal with basically problems, managerial problems. Sometimes social or personal, mostly social and personal. So Grapevine was one. It's so great. And then this last one, How Much Cooperation, is a film that I just recently got. And so I'm still finding ones in those series. And they all end with a question. And the managers, after they watch the film, are supposed to work through what they're supposed to do. And there is liberal use of the word girls. And this one was interesting because it said girls and women. So it's interesting that he talks to the women he works with and says that they're girls. But then he talks about the model as a woman. It's really an interesting thing because certainly a model would have been a girl at that time, or I would consider it. But anyways, so it's an interesting use of language, and I have found films made by Calvin when they talk about girls who work in the office, who are secretaries or whatever, and I found notes that people had written at wherever the schools or the educational distribution thing that had notes that said, warning, the term girls might be offensive to modern day audiences. So it's interesting. People are trying to look at the film and realize, like, oh, well, this is actually not a good film to show because it's using dated terminology. And this is why I love showing films to you. I got one last film to show. This is a long one, but it has assembly line footage, it has food, and I'm sure you guys will love it. It's made by Hershey, and it was distributed to schools as a way to kind of talk about how chocolate is made, but it's also an ad for Hershey's. So I hope you guys enjoy this. It's called Great American Chocolate Factory, and hopefully, well, let me just say this. Thank you so much for coming out and watching the films with me every day. And you can support us by going to Patreon, but really you can support us by sharing the films with people and getting people to watch. This is what we like to do. We like to share films and put new eyeballs on old films and get you guys to kind of talk about them and think about them. And as I've said before, I very much enjoy doing this, and this is a great thing that makes me take a shower every day. So thank you for that. And so here's Great American Chocolate Factory, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and we're gonna take the weekend off, but we'll be back the following Monday. So if I don't see you tomorrow, hopefully I will see you next week. I can hear it. See, there it is. Thank you so much for bearing with that. Here is Great American Chocolate Factory. Enjoy.
There's a lot of good, rich farmland around Hershey, Pennsylvania, and there are a lot of independent farmers working the same fields their grandfathers did. This is Pennsylvania Dutch country. Tradition is important here, and in some ways, things haven't changed much since the turn of the century. The air is still clean and fresh. The landscape is well kept, peaceful, quiet. Of course, this is true in many agricultural areas. But Hershey is different. The town, which has a population of under 10,000, was founded by Milton S. Hershey in 1903. It was a most unusual community then, and it is now. For one thing, the educational and cultural facilities are unique. The Milton Hershey School, with its 10,000-acre campus, is a private school, a tuition-free private school for needy boys and girls who don't have adequate care from one of their natural parents. Today, nearly 1,500 students live and study here, carrying on the traditions started by Mr. Hershey back in 1909. The entire state benefits from the medical center, which was built with a grant from the M.S. Hershey Foundation. The complex is owned and operated by Penn State University and provides complete patient care while maintaining extensive research and educational programs. But Hershey isn't all classrooms and laboratories. Hershey Park is a happy experience for every member of the family. Owned and operated by Herco, another company Milton S. Hershey founded, Hershey Park is one of the major theme parks in the East. Holiday magazine called it the cleanest and greenest in America. The arena next door is the home of the Hershey Bears of the American Hockey League. And there's some headline event going on in town almost every night. In sports, theater, music, and dance, the people around here are accustomed to seeing big names from Hollywood, New York, Nashville, as well as touring foreign performers. The little rural community of Hershey attracts nearly 2 million visitors every year. Many come to see the formal rose gardens. And those who enjoy golf will find there's more golf per square foot than any place else in the world. Hershey is a most unusual community. And the reason goes back to the year of 1903 when Milton Hershey decided to build the world's largest chocolate factory in the cornfields of Derry Township. This is where it all began. The town grew up around the factory, independently, but benefiting from steady employment and Mr. Hershey's personal legacy of concern for the community and the individual. While things in and around the factory have changed over the years, the taste of milk chocolate is as popular as ever, and the business of making milk chocolate products is as fascinating as ever.
The great American, great American, great American chocolate factory.
Chocolate is a happy flavor. It's America's favorite, and it blends happily with other natural flavors. There are probably hundreds, maybe thousands of different ways we can enjoy chocolate in foods we buy at the store or make at home. When Milton Hershey built his factory, milk chocolate was a delicacy enjoyed primarily by the wealthy. But by developing his own special formulations and manufacturing techniques, he proved that milk chocolate could be made and shipped all over America at a price most people could afford. Choosing this site was no accident. Mr. Hershey knew that to mass-produce milk chocolate, he'd need milk, and lots of it. So this location was ideal. The rich dairy farms here could produce many thousands of gallons of fresh milk every day. That's still true. Every day, rain or shine, all year round, stainless steel tank trucks visit dairy farms in the region to pick up fresh, whole, grade A milk. Hershey buys the entire output of more than 1,000 farms, amounting to over 1 million pounds of milk a day. In this business, that's how milk is bought and sold, by the pound. Beginning right at the farm, Hershey ensures that all government standards for quality and cleanliness are met or exceeded. The company maintains a staff of field representatives to inspect each farm on a regular basis, and the milk haulers conduct a series of quality checks too. Every time a milk hauler visits a farm, he takes what's called a universal sample, which will go to the lab for testing. The tank trucks hold up to 6,000 gallons, or about 50,000 pounds of milk. The receiving station at the factory is open 24 hours a day, and the trucks are thoroughly scrubbed and sanitized after each delivery. The universal sample from each farm is brought immediately to the milk receiving laboratory. Here, tests for bacteria count and butterfat content are among the many conducted in a continuous, tightly controlled quality assurance program. But obviously, it takes more than milk to make milk chocolate. And the factory requires a constant flow of natural ingredients from many different countries around the world. In the lush tropical growing areas of South and Central America, Africa, and the South Pacific, we find such fruits as coconuts, bananas, pineapple, and we also find vast fields of sugarcane. Unlike most crops, which are grown for their fruit or leaves or roots, it is the cane itself, the stalk, that is important here. When the cane is ready, harvest crews work 7 days a week to bring in the crop. The large knife they use is called a machete, a universal tool in tropical agriculture. Hershey uses sugar from many different parts of the world, including cane and beet sugars grown in the United States. Here in the tropics, as in the States, it's impractical to transport bulky loads of cane over long distances. So, small sugar mills are usually scattered throughout the growing region for immediate processing. The cane is squeezed and ground under tremendous pressure, releasing the juice, which is caught in troughs under the grinding wheels. The fibrous, woody waste is removed by conveyor belt to help fuel the mill's boiler. Initial processing transforms the raw juice into a thick brown sugar syrup. In subsequent refining procedures, impurities and liquid are extracted to produce the white crystals of sugar we're all familiar with. Sometimes, within a few miles of the cane fields, other farmers are cultivating very delicate, very special trees, usually planted under taller varieties of trees to protect them from direct sunlight. These are cocoa trees, and their seeds are the basis of all cocoa and chocolate products. The seeds, called cocoa beans, grow within these pods, which are about 6 to 10 inches in length. The correct scientific name for this fruit is Theobroma cacao, which means food of the gods. These unusual trees thrive within 20 degrees of the equator and have a continuous growth cycle. The fruit seems to be attached haphazardly because the tiny blossoms grow directly from the trunk or main branches instead of at the ends of smaller branches. This is nature's way of protecting the heavy clusters of ripened fruit, which need solid support. It takes 5 to 6 months for the pods to reach maturity, and harvesting techniques vary from region to region, from farm to farm. In many areas, the growing and marketing of cocoa beans is the prime source of income, and the small independent farmer, like his counterpart in other agricultural areas of the world, depends upon a good harvest. But since the trees have a continuous growth cycle, there is no 1 week or month when an entire crop is ready. The pods are cut down as they ripen. In some larger operations, the pods are collected and taken to a central station for opening. Often, as in this case, they're opened in the field with razor-sharp machetes. Working side by side, father and son efficiently strip the wet beans from the pods onto handy banana leaves. An expert worker can open 7 or 8 pods per minute, each one containing 30 to 40 cocoa beans, surrounded by a white pulp. Beasts of burden still play an important role in many cocoa-growing regions, as small farmers bring their beans to a central area for fermentation and drying. Here, payment is made by the box, a volume measurement that's equal to about 30 pounds of wet beans. The cocoa beans are then heaped into piles and allowed to ferment. Natural fermentation causes a chemical change in the pulp, which helps develop the color and flavor of the cocoa bean. It also hardens the skin of the bean into a protective shell, which will be removed later in the factory. The piles are covered with plantain or banana leaves to help contain the heat during the 5 to 6 day fermentation process. The fermented cocoa beans are then spread out to dry in the sun for 6 to 7 days. They're turned over regularly, and these drying platforms are built on tracks so that in the event of rain, they can be rolled under tin roofs for protection. The dried beans are less susceptible to disease and mold, and they are now ready for shipment overseas. A tropical port is a busy place, with a variety of agricultural produce being exported and an even wider variety of manufactured goods being imported. In larger ports, railroad tracks go right out onto the docks. The dried cocoa beans, now packed in 140-pound bags, are transferred from a boxcar to the hold of an ocean-going freighter. Destination, the United States of America. Cocoa beans, en route to the factory in Hershey, will arrive at one of our large East Coast ports of entry, often Philadelphia. The beans are quickly offloaded, and the first of a continuing series of quality assurance tests and inspections begins right here. With a device called a thief, samples are taken from each incoming shipment for laboratory analysis. Carloads of beans arrive at the factory throughout the year from the world's great cocoa growing regions. Beans from Ghana and Nigeria, from Brazil and the Dominican Republic, from New Guinea and Malaysia, actually from more than a dozen different countries. And because each region produces a bean with its own distinctive flavor, each is delivered automatically from the rail siding to individual storage silos. The total capacity of this facility is 90 million pounds. And if you want to figure it out, you'll find that'll make a lot of chocolate bars. There's a constant flow of incoming ingredients, and acres of warehouse space are devoted to the storage of peanuts and almonds. Hershey uses huge quantities of almonds, some of them coming from the company's own groves in California. Peanuts arrive in even greater quantities. Thousands of tons a year from our southern and southwestern states pass through this warehouse to be used in a variety of products. In the research laboratories, this panel plays a significant role in determining how ingredients will be used. Which new product recipes will actually go into factory production? Being a member of the taste panel is an unusual job and a great responsibility, identifying and charting subtle differences in flavor, fragrance, texture. Of course, some formulations remain unchanged year after year, and the details of all of them are highly guarded secrets. Factory production schedules determine the quantities of specific ingredients that will be drawn from storage on any given day. Since 5 or 6 different types of chocolate may be in production at the same time, scheduling the flow of cocoa beans is especially complex. Beans are withdrawn from the storage silos according to type and origin. In an elaborate cleaning and sorting machine, currents of air and a series of sieves remove foreign matter. refining processes until it's ready for packaging as pure cocoa, or is blended with other ingredients. In another section of the factory, whole milk is being condensed, the first of many complex procedures in the making of milk chocolate. When almost all of the water content has been removed and the milk has reached the consistency of taffy, chocolate liquor and sugar are added, and the mixture looks good enough to eat right now. However, many more steps lie ahead. The mixture gets drier and drier until finally it is conveyed as a coarse powder to another series of mixing tanks. The blending and mixing are computer controlled, and from this console, additional cocoa butter is introduced to make the finished chocolate richer in flavor, creamier in texture. The mixture is now in a liquid state. And from this control center, the flow is directed to one of many conching machines. The name conch began years ago when the machines were shaped like the seashell. Today, there are a variety of shapes and sizes in use. Inside, constant stirring and low heat develop the flavor of the mixture, which is now called chocolate paste. This rotary action conch is preferred for some types of chocolate, while other chocolates benefit most from longitudinal conching techniques. The chocolate paste entering a conch is thick and visibly coarse in texture. In a back and forth or reciprocating action, large granite rollers rub the paste over a corrugated granite base. After 72 hours of conching, this chocolate has reached a rich, mellow consistency with flavor to match. If you were a member of our camera crew, you'd agree that chocolate in the conching stage smells just as good as it looks. But it isn't quite ready for cooling and packaging. Not yet. One final and important operation is required, and these men are preparing to pump the chocolate paste from the conch to the refining department. In the refining process, massive steel rollers reduce the particle size of the blended ingredients, making a fine paste even finer, really velvety smooth in texture. While the chocolate paste is being refined, the peanuts and almonds required for some products are prepared for roasting. After cleaning, an electronic sorting machine inspects all peanuts by color, automatically rejecting any that are below standards. Almonds must pass equally rigorous inspections as they are cleaned and slit prior to roasting. This has got to be one of the most aromatic departments in the factory. Peanuts and almonds are roasted in these stainless steel ovens in an automated process that develops and enhances the natural nut flavor. The result of this special process is a flavor that is deliciously different. A flavor that blends especially well with milk chocolate in the finished product. As the nuts are conveyed to many different departments, the refined milk chocolate paste is cooled to a working temperature of 82 degrees Fahrenheit, 28 degrees Celsius. To make solid bars of milk chocolate, rows of stainless steel molds on an endless belt are filled over and over again during each production shift. The belt passes under two depositors, each filling alternate rows of molds automatically. If an almond bar is being molded, the nuts are deposited in the molds before the chocolate. Throughout the factory, round-the-clock surveillance is maintained by quality assurance technicians. Chocolate samples are delivered to the laboratory for analysis to assure adherence to all quality standards. The performance of each machine is also checked regularly. Here, a sample tray from depositor number 53 is weighed to make sure it is depositing the specified amount of chocolate. The filled molds are vibrated and cooled as they travel through a long tunnel. Vibration of the chocolate, while it's still in a semi-liquid state, helps to assure a solid, well-formed bar with no air pockets or bubbles. At the end of the tunnel, finished milk chocolate bars emerge and move toward the automatic packaging equipment without any human contact. Of course, not all chocolate is molded. This unique shape is achieved by ejecting or dropping chocolate onto a moving belt. Chocolate is made to be eaten, and no one can enjoy its pleasures if it's kept here in the factory. So packaging of the various products is probably as important as making them. It takes special skills, experience, and equipment to prepare products for delivery to stores all over the country, so they can be placed on the shelves fresh, undamaged, and properly labeled. Solid chocolate bars, liquid syrups, and powdered cocos require different types of containers in a wide variety of sizes. Paper and cardboard and tin and steel must be cut, shaped, filled, sealed. So with complex machines and materials handling systems in operation all over the factory, it's a wild and wonderful scene. As much fun to watch as it is to eat the products themselves. Well, almost. Containers are filled and weighed automatically. If there's anything wrong, the can is rejected automatically. And wherever you turn, you're likely to find a quality assurance technician picking up samples for the lab. Before any product leaves the factory, it and its ingredients have been checked, tested, analyzed, and scrutinized every step of the way. In the quality assurance laboratories, experts in nutrition, food science, and microbiology are guided by the Product Excellence Program. They maintain standards that are stricter, more comprehensive than those imposed by government agencies. And their efforts assure consumers that they'll get the quality and quantity they expect. Another consumer service is generated by home economists in the test kitchen. These specialists experiment with chocolate and cocoa in a wide range of recipes that can be followed in the home. Successful new ideas and traditional favorites are photographed, so collections of illustrated recipes can be printed for free distribution. Press releases are also used by newspapers and magazines all over the country without mention of brand names, introducing readers to new and delicious uses of chocolate. We hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to the great American chocolate factory and the community surrounding it. Chocolate is a happy flavor, and this is a happy town. If you ever get a chance to visit, you might want to see Chocolate World, where a simulated tour of the factory is conducted all year round with no charge for admission. Thanks for watching, and have a happy day.
Hello. Thanks for watching Great American Chocolate Factory. There is an updated version of this film, which I think I have somewhere, but it's basically the same thing. There's a little bit more computerized stuff. They're showing off their new technologies. These films were designed not only to advertise for the company that made them, but also to show the manufacturing process and to show how clean it all is, how hygienic it was. And that's ultimately why factory tours existed early on, is that you could see how the sausage was being made and how clean and hygienic that process was. All right, so see you guys tomorrow. Thanks again for hanging out, and have a good rest of the day.